Hello.
Hello. Um, Dude, would you quit lying to people and telling people that there's no freaking recession right now?
I don't think I've been that liar.
Dude, I'm telling you. Guys, that's what we're diving into. This is first of all, this is a special Tuesday edition of After Hours Real Estate. I had a little event yesterday, but this content is so on point and so right now. I didn't want to put it off for another week because I missed last week. We're going to do this, man. We are going to do this. So, we're going to talk about surprise. We've been in a recession for a long time. Yeah, yay. And if you pay attention to the show, you've known that because this guy and I have been saying that. How long have we been saying this, dude? Like
It's
two
probably
years?
2023, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, about 2 years.
Since it's been
Um,
so painful to ignore, I felt forced to talk about it because I don't like going into politics on the show. Or
no,
professionally,
I
I just don't like doing it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it has to. You have to. The funny thing is, man, I was doing a little more research, trying to find some backup information on this, and I'm going like in Chat GPT and Perplexity and Grok, and they're all like, "Well, economists tend to differ on their opinion as to whether or not we're in a recession." I'm like, "Oh Jesus, okay, great." All of
Yeah,
these
but
AI
okay,
things.
okay. So here's the thing, though, is that there is a definition on what a recession is,
There is
and we met that definition.
several
Um,
years ago.
Right. And so to say that economists don't agree means
Somebody's blowing smoke up
what
somebody's ass.
what it means is that the math is not settled. And if the math is not settled, that means someone's got numbers that aren't quite right. Right?
That's what it means to
Right?
me.
I mean, because
Um,
math should be math, 1 plus 1. Let's
Sometimes
call it
math
what it is.
doesn't math, Stephen. Sometimes math doesn't math.
Oh, it
Guys,
always maths.
the other thing that we do on this show is we drink adult beverages. My friend, I've got from my hometown a little Shiner Ruby Redbird because when
That
it's
looks
summertime,
delicious.
oh, it's amazing. It's so good.
I would like to do a shout out to Yingling and
Yeah.
tell you that you should all scrap your light beer line. Yingling is great, but Yingling not light. It's called Yingling Flight. Has made me viscerally ill for almost a week now. I only got a 12 pack, and it's still in my fridge. Usually, that 12 pack, if I actually bought it, which I did buy it with intentions of taking these to the pool, having a great weekend, and crushing that 12 pack within 36
Hours.
hours at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a week later, there are still beers in my fridge, which I'm thinking I'm going to pour out. And never in my entire 44 years of living have I ever poured out a beer. I just want you to know that it's so bad and it makes me so violently ill that I'm also deciding that maybe I have some gluten issue with it. I don't know, but I've decided to go for some red wine tonight.
Oh, look at you, my man. Red
Yeah.
wine.
But for those of you that have
Oh,
not
Carolyn
tried
said
Yingling
she loves
Flight,
flight.
oh
Oh,
God. Well, besides Carolyn, the rest of you, fly away from that. Yeah, Yingling. That's
I,
not.
I
It's not
poured
good
out
Yingling.
I've poured out good beers on one occasion, man. Um, well, no, they weren't good. Let's rephrase that. It was steel. Have you ever had steel malt liquor?
Honestly, that tastes better than the Yingling Flight. Yes.
Oh God! Wow! Yikes!
Like 4 or 5 sips in, I started getting stomach cramps, and like at the end of the first beer, I'm thinking, "Wow, what did I eat yesterday?" And then I got to the second beer, and it was like, if I keep drinking this, I'm gonna die. I mean, I'm not interested in this drink at all. I've had plenty of beers, and it was. When I say visceral, I'm not joking. Like I've been in
Yikes!
pain.
All right. All right. So here we go.
Moving on.
Cheers,
Yes,
man.
moving on. Hello, thank you.
Moving on. Ah, yes. The
Oh,
grapefruity goodness of Shiner Ruby Red. Yeah. By the way, guys, seriously, if you like, I don't like fruit in my beer, and there is fruit in this beer. Okay, it's grapefruit and it's bitter, but I'm going to tell you, when it's hot in the summer. This is a Shiner commercial, by the way, because I grew up in Shiner. Um, when it's hot
that is
in the
great.
summer, like when you're on a lawnmower or doing yard work and it's hot as all balls out, um, make get you some cold ones of these. There is nothing more refreshing. I'm telling you, like that. I don't get paid from Shiner. I don't
Yeah,
get free beer. I'm telling you, this stuff is amazing when it's hot. Like
yeah.
river beer, let's go.
But also throwing up balls hot. That wasn't even close to accurate. It's far hotter than that. Let's be clear. You know, 105. It's not even. That's a body. If your body's that
Yeah,
hot, we
you're
got
right.
big problems.
And balls adjust with temperature, so they're actually a little bit
All
cooler
right.
than flies. Look, I'm a
Okay. All
biology
right.
teacher. You brought it up. All right,
So we are in a recession, and we're going to prove it
prove
to you.
it.
And we've been in a
Prove it.
recession. You and I have said over and over again, if you are a lender or a realtor, you've been in a recession since roughly 2022.
Yep.
Definitely 2023, depending on which part of the country you're in.
Yeah,
And
seriously.
and if you are not a realtor, then maybe you've been lucky enough not to notice. But according to this article, many have noticed.
By the way, guys, this is done. This is a study done by the Brownstone Institute, so this is their own article. Um, and yes, the AIs don't agree because not all economists agree with this. Whatever, we're going to run with it anyway.
But nobody's publishing anything to disagree with
No,
it. They're
not at
they're
all. And this
stating on
is a
Twitter like, well,
published
I don't know if I agree
study.
with this, but that's it.
Yep. And this is a
Yeah.
published study. It can be peer reviewed. And I also saw that they came back. There were some people that challenged some things in here, and Brownstein came back and doubled down. They're like, no, this is like here is all of our data. This is
Well,
accurate.
to trust this institute's findings, you have to agree that the government was not giving accurate
That's
numbers,
right.
and that is something a lot of people aren't willing to
They're not
easily
willing
give
to do.
up.
That's right. Okay. Many have questioned the accuracy of official inflation stats with dozens of academic papers written on the topic and doubts voiced by sources ranging from the New York Times to former President Donald Trump. This obviously came out before the election. This matters not only because of the political salience of rising prices, but also because official inflation numbers are used to calculate real economic growth by adjusting nominal dollars into inflation adjusted dollars. It's kind of an important thing that we look at dollars as inflation adjusted because I mean, right, we were all bitching about eggs and gas and everything else. Like those things are inflation adjusted. So got to look at it the same way. In
Well,
this
they're
study,
supposed to be.
well, yeah, you should. In this study, we aim to quantify some of the more egregious biases in inflation statistics in order to get us closer to a true understanding of inflation since 2019, hence of true economic growth since 2019. The difficulty in measuring the size of a nation's economy is twofold. First, there is insufficient data to directly measure the number and size of all transactions in an economy. Makes sense. Or to monitor all economic activity. Second, the measuring tool used, in this case, a Federal Reserve note, changes value over time. Thus, fluctuations in the nominal value of economic activity can be due to real changes in economic activity, measurement error of economic activity, or changes in the value of a currency. So, those are all the ways that the dollar can actually change value. Okay.
Can I give a quick example, real fast, of what they're
Absolutely.
trying to say?
Yep.
So, if the dollar goes down by 10% in value, what they're saying is that all prices don't go down by 10% immediately. It takes a long time for them to play out. So, let's just say that the value of the dollar drops by 50%. Theoretically, the value of your home should double in that scenario, right? Your $100,000 home is now worth $200,000. But when the value of the dollar fluctuates, all other values tend to stay the same for a while. Otherwise, they'd be fluctuating by pennies every few minutes, and that would just be chaos. So,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to flow with the changes slowly, and that's really what this article is trying to start off by saying, that it's there's no easy way to show you this because it takes a long time for it to play out.
Yeah.
But now that we're what 2-3 years past this, they think
Past.
they've got enough to show it. But all right, sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. The government metrics for inflation suffer from various problems, which tend to underestimate the rise in prices over time. These shortcomings have been more pronounced over the last 4 years during a relatively rapid depreciation of the currency. Um, and again, guys,
Excuse
I think, look, I think at this point we can all agree that over the last 4 years, we've seen our dollar be able to buy less and less and less. I mean, I don't think that's
me.
even,
Oh yeah, we've all seen the grocery memes. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's even up for
Have you,
debate
have you seen
anymore.
the one from well, I'm thinking Kevin McAllister, Home Alone, when he goes to the grocery store with $20 from
Oh,
his brother's. He's got two big grocery bags full
yeah.
of food for $20, and it was like 1991 or something like that. Yeah.
$20 now buys me some ham. Awesome.
I mean, a couple bags of chips, right?
Yeah. The study does not attempt to address difficulties concerning measuring the nominal value of economic activity, but instead offers an alternative adjustment for converting nominal growth to real growth by more accurately reflecting changes in the cost of living over time. Okay. Bias related to housing, one of the most often cited gauges is Consumer Price Index, CPI. You and I talk about it on here. Measures the change of price for a fixed basket of goods and services over time. While the index contains a proxy for the cost of home ownership, it does not actually account for this directly. Instead, CPI imputes this value from rents without observing home prices or interest rates, called the owner equivalent rent of residences. This category has a relative importance of over 26%, meaning it makes up more than a quarter of CPI. One of the other things I want to point out about CPI, and I don't think they do this in this article, I didn't see it earlier. CPI doesn't measure what it measured 10 years ago. So
Or
just
10
like
years before that. Or 10
or,
years
or
before
10
that.
years before that. So they're constantly changing the numbers, and that's going to get us into what we're talking about today. The numbers are constantly changing. So when the math doesn't math, it's because they're changing the input values of the math. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and they have reasons for it. They do.
Uh,
We're not using CD players anymore. Why would we be measuring the consumption of music based on, take home music? Now it's music streaming and other ways of measuring it, that kind of thing.
well, but they also used to measure house pricing
Hey, I
differently.
didn't say I agree with all of it. I just said they have reasons for
If the costs of
it.
rent and own change commensurately over time, that's a SAT word, man. This methodology will be relatively accurate. Unfortunately, the cost of owning a home has risen much faster than rents over the last 4 years, and the CPI has grossly underestimated housing cost inflation. You've talked about that ad nauseum at this point. The cost of housing services in the National Economic Accounts published by the Bureau of Economic Analysis suffers from similar methodological problems. I was actually reading an article on this yesterday that there's really no correspondence between house pricing and rents. And they used to say that there was, and that's what this is talking about. But now they're like, no, there's not, because when housing prices go up, rents stay stable, and then if housing prices drop, rents will jump, and then they'll stay stable and housing prices go up and rents can come back down. Like there's not a correspondence. And this is assuming that there is,
Well,
but
people say that, but if you just one example will immediately tell you that it's not true. What you just said is true, but it's not true
yeah,
that they correlate. Let's say the home prices drop and rents are going for $3,000 a month in your neighborhood, but you can buy your home for a price that justifies a $2,000 rent. Are you going to charge $1,000 less a month in rent as a landlord, or are you going to go charge the going rate?
yeah,
Well, of course you're going to charge the
the
going
rent,
rate unless you're having
right?
trouble finding renters. Right? No one's going to shoot themselves in the foot. Well, I don't want profit. Let's just make sure I've got a really hard time of this all the time. No, of course you want profit, and so of course they don't dictate each other's price.
No, not at all. There's also issues when quantifying the effects of certain government regulations. Damn it, I thought we weren't getting political, which can affect hedonic adjustments that typically adjust prices downward when government statisticians believe a product has improved. Okay. I mean, that goes back. What's the law that's you always say is not an actual law where technology increases and prices
Oh,
come down?
Moore's law. You
Moore's
know
law.
what's funny about it though? It states that every 18 to 24 months, I believe, the speed of computers doubles,
Yeah.
and every like few 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it stops, and we're like, wow, that was 8 years ago, so it hasn't doubled, and it's wrong. And then we'll come up with something like quantum computing, which will be so much more double. We're like, wow, if you graph that, we're still doing it. We're still at double. So
Yeah.
so not as rapidly, but it's still happening.
Right. So the difficulty of estimating such improvements can result in artificial cost reductions due to perceived benefits. Like, dude, this is getting woo woo now, man. That do not actually exist. For example, if it is assumed that a regulation increases the quality of a product, then even a dramatic increase in price could register as no price change or even a price decline in accounting, which is used to compute the GDP. Isn't that crazy? Like, just because the government says, hey, I wave a magic wand and poof, this should be
Right.
cheaper.
Well,
Even if it's
so
not cheaper, they count it as cheaper.
essentially what you just read is that the government makes a policy and then changes their numbers based on the predictions of what their policy is going to do.
Yep.
But historically, the predictions aren't very accurate, and so
Wait, what?
so therefore the numbers wouldn't be very accurate. But yeah, keep going.
Right. That's right. Oh, Anne's back.
Crazy.
And
That's crazy. That's
it
crazy.
is crazy. Okay, so also biases related to indirect purchases. Further challenges exist to measuring inflation and price changes when consumers are not directly charged for services, like health insurance. Premiums are used both to pay for the actual cost of providing the service of insurance risk mitigation for medical services and commodities. The CPI neglects both and instead imputes the cost of health insurance from the profits of health insurers. Do you see an issue here?
Yeah, in other words, they're not real numbers. Let's move on. I mean, it's a really wonderful paragraph, and it's beautifully written to confuse the shit out of people.
Yeah,
But
that's
but
like
at the end, the numbers aren't real. Okay, that's all you had to write.
Drew Carey show.
What about Drew Carey show?
Do you remember it?
Oh yeah,
Where the questions are made up and the points just don't matter.
yeah. That's it reminds me of Armageddon when they're talking about how bad it's gonna be. He's like, "What's the environment gonna be like on this asteroid?" And he's like, "Well, it's gonna be,
Yeah,
temperatures from 0 to
it's,
300
it's the
degrees, and
sun. It's shitty.
massive whatever. It's gonna be." It's just, the dude looks at him.
Massive earthquakes.
What is
Yeah.
it? Owen Wilson. He's like, "Yeah, so the scariest environment imaginable." That's all you had to
That's all you have
say.
to say.
Scariest environment imaginable. That's it, right? You can just sum up this whole paragraph and
Yes,
just say the
exactly.
numbers are wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
So, what are the implications for economic growth? The phenomenon of undercounting inflation is particularly concerning today, given how high the official inflation measurements have been for the last several years. Isn't that crazy? How
Don't
high
trust your
official
lying eyes.
inflation measurements? Official inflation measurements have been high. The inflation itself has increased the nominal values of several key economic metrics without resulting in any real change. This is why there's been such a disparity between the rapid rise in nominal pre-inflation GDP and the relatively slow increase in real after-inflation GDP. The following data is presented in such a way to show the reader the change in nominal and real values through the second quarter of 2024, beginning in either the first quarter of 19 or January of 19 when applicable. Um, those are massive differences. 3x, 5x. I don't even know how to calculate an x on a negative. That's a
Right,
20,
an actual negative when they were showing positive.
40x. Yeah, yeah. And what that's showing, correct me if I'm wrong, it's showing inflation when you take into account, oh, no, I don't want to sign up for that. Thank you. It's showing the inflation that we've been talking about, but this is what the government numbers are. This is what the government's showing. How in the actual F do we not have uh, reporters screaming this shit from the rooftops?
Well,
Why?
the
Why?
the economists have been, but nobody listens to the economists.
Yeah, no,
But
not at all.
it's been this inside joke that they all have. Well, the fake numbers, and they've been saying this for 2 3 years. If you're a mortgage lender, this is not news to you. You damn well know this. You have heard about this in the office.
Yeah.
At least everybody I'm talking to has been talking about
Anybody that's listened to this show more than 3 episodes has heard this. Just,
We haven't been keeping it a
just
secret. Yes.
yeah. Note that not only are the inflation adjustments large, they are highly variable, ranging from 20% for wholesale goods to 22 to 23% for manufacturing inventories with new orders. While 3% may seem like a small difference, the context of GDP growth it represents is $1 trillion difference in real output. It's
It's huge. It's huge.
roughly the GDP of Saudi Arabia. Holy shit. In the context of annual economic growth, 3% over a 4-year period is a huge number. The difference between robust and anemic growth, or between anemic growth and recession. Yes. Implications for income. These are all official numbers, guys. These aren't made up. Like, this is coming from the government. When disposable personal income is deflated with a more accurate inflation metric, the real increase of 12.9% in disposable income from the first quarter of 2019 through the second quarter of 2024 becomes a real decrease of 2.3%. So if you got a 13% raise, you actually took a 2.3% pay cut because of the cost of goods. Congratulations. Jeez. Chart
Well,
below
everybody
illustrates.
knows it.
Well, yeah, we all.
Anyone watching right now, there's absolutely no one who's
No,
like, "Well, I'm making way more right now. I'm doing much better than I was, with my same salary, right? Like it's buying more stuff." No, it's not.
no.
Of course it isn't.
Chart below illustrates how the rapid increase in disposable income in 20 and 21. Wait, why was there a rapid increase in disposable personal income during COVID, Stephen? Would you explain
because
that to
everything
me?
was shut down. We shut down the whole world.
And we also all got bailout checks and printed shit tons of money, artificially
Yeah.
compressed interest
However,
rates.
imagine you opened up a bar with your friends and COVID shows up and you have to close the bar for the first 3 months that you were expecting to have
Yeah,
massive profits. You're now out of business. You've lost your life
yeah.
savings. That's happened to a lot of people over
Probably
COVID. It's happening right now due to the tariffs, especially in China. And these issues take
saw that.
years to really play out. So if it's bad now, it should be worse later. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, which is it. Yeah, and everybody does know it. Yep, PPP. Oh God, the PPP, the stuff that's coming out about how many billions and hundreds of billions of dollars that were wasted. Wow. The 9 month old kids that were getting $1 million loans. Awesome. Great
It
job.
makes you wonder about those other people though that filed, double the number for their businesses and
Yeah.
got arrested. Why are they
Yeah.
getting arrested when someone
Yeah.
else can file for a 9-year-old and
Right.
not? Who's that person that filed? How do we find out who's getting treatment on this and not? That's what I want to know.
Exactly. Um, do we want to keep going through this, or do we want to converse at this point?
I could tell you what it says.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that, guys, that's the overall point of this. I mean, we can post the article, and I'll post it into the comments. Um, shit. Go ahead.
There
You
have
riff
been
on it for a little bit.
Yeah, there have been no official backups to this study. There have been some economists that say, "Well, I don't agree," but that's not an official statement. You've got to publish why you don't agree, etc.
That's
Um,
called scientific method, in case you didn't know.
they've
Yeah.
been asked a few questions. They have replied to it, but for the most part, the people out there that would benefit from poking holes in this study are not able to. They have not been able to poke the holes in the study. So it appears as though we have been in a recession since it was officially announced in 2022. And you may remember that the very next day, the government, I can't remember who was in charge back then, but the government changed the definition of recession so that we weren't technically in one.
Because was it, what
However,
is it? How
judging,
many quarters is it? Three, but then they changed it.
it's two in a row, two,
Two
two
in a row.
negatives in a row.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing here is that the very moment the recession was called, the numbers started getting faked and the
Yeah.
definition of recession was changed at the government level, at the highest level. And so, here we are in the future being told, well, be careful. Trump might be putting us into a recession when we've been in one for 3 years. And even the economic gurus out there aren't able to poke holes in this thing, right? They're all waiting for more data to back them up, but it's not backing them up.
Yeah. Well, and but that's the thing, right? So what are we seeing at this point with? Well, they don't like the information. They're trying to poke holes. They can't do it. So it's like, shh, go away,
Well, I
hush.
mean, bro, if you're a politician, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you do not want to walk up to the microphone and say we're in a recession. Like it's the last thing in the
Yeah.
world. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I can understand why any politician would lie about this. And politicians lying, I mean, that's like kids using pencils at school, right? I mean,
It's
it's
like me
you just
drinking
come to
beer.
expect it, huh?
It's like me drinking beer.
Oh yeah, it's normal. It comes with the job, right? So, um, yeah, I don't really quite know where to go from there. But the point is that we have been very much lied to. The
Yeah.
numbers are much worse than we were told, and the recession's been happening for a while. Also, I want to point out a very funny phenomenon that I talked about a couple shows ago, real fast.
Good. Make
Um,
me laugh.
it is the perception, and this is a everyone's stupid comment, okay? But it's the perception of the economy based on whose party is in power.
Yes.
So if you, and I think you'll probably remember this, but it's good for the show, right? If you are a Republican and a Democrat is in office, within about 3 months of that Democrat taking office, you will start to believe the economy is in shambles. It's well documented.
Yep.
And if you are a Democrat and that Democrat is in office still, you will within 3 months of that election start to believe that the economy is doing wonderfully. And then
Right.
the exact opposite happens when the other party takes power. The graphs then shift about 3 months afterwards. They meet, and then about 3 months after that, the economy's terrible again,
That's right.
depending on, or wonderful again,
Or
depending on
wonderful.
which party you're in. And
Yeah.
right now, I'm seeing all these articles about how Republicans feel like, they got the wool over their eyes, and then they're talking about how the Democrats are feeling like it's going to be the worst recession. Okay, well, this is actually a noted thing. This is not like, these are news people saying like, well, there's clouds up there and that could produce rain, right? It's okay. We already know this. Like, this is already known. But then they make headlines for it, and okay, cool.
It's fun stuff. You and I need a bigger platform, man.
It'd be fun.
The common sense and no shit. That's the name of the platform. The common sense and no shit.
Yeah, no one's as smart as they think they are. Let's put it that way,
No,
including
I'm.
us. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. But that kind of like belabors the point a little bit. I think I'm using that correctly. You don't have to be smart to figure this out.
Well, that's the joke. Is that if you say enough of these stupid words in a row, then people are like, "Well, I don't really. I'm kind of out. See you later." Right? But
Yeah.
my grocery bill's bigger, and I know it is. Right? It's like, okay, well, they still know. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It doesn't take a rocket surgeon. Does not take
No,
a rocket surgeon.
no. Most stuff doesn't. To be honest with you, most. The
No.
older I get, the more I realize how basic almost everything is.
Yes.
Even the guys at the top. Um, God, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
I don't want you to get started. Okay. So we are almost 4 full months in. Um, People need to take an economics class. I don't know, Ann. I don't think I've ever taken an economics class.
You taught
Yeah,
economics.
maybe I need to take an economics class.
Didn't you teach economics?
No,
You taught history.
biology and physics, dude.
Oh,
Yeah,
whatever.
no. You think I'm a football coach and I taught history?
That's funny. I liked history and math. I did not like biology or physics, but that's fine. It's good. It's cool.
Um,
Um,
but anyway,
yeah.
we're wrapping up 4 months of 2025. Let's get some new predictions out there. I don't know if you saw, but Wells Fargo revised their 4.5% appreciation number down to 2.4. They were one of the more bullish predictors of the real estate market. Um, what do you think we're going to see with pricing in Austin?
Well, as much as nobody wants to admit it, the tariffs failed. I don't think they failed overall, but what we didn't want to have happen was a prolonged negotiation where orders stop coming in or going out, period, right?
Yeah,
um and this will be felt for years. Having that tariff right now with China specifically means um orders aren't getting filled over there. uh they're going to try to get
there's a
filled
lot
over here.
of people. There's a lot of Chinese people out of work right now. Just sent
Well, we
home.
can't just all of a sudden be China. We don't have enough,
Yeah,
shops set up, right? So he who acted first gets their orders in, and the rest of us would just be trying to figure out what to do, right? You
yeah,
can't compete. What are we going to do? Can we compete? Do we? Let's just, all right. Let's chop off half the staff and try to deal with this, right? Nobody wants that, but it looks like what we're going to be headed into.
yeah.
Um, if we can't get the tariffs under control. But with a 90-day pause, that's 3 months for shit to fall apart. Excuse my French, right? But companies to panic. Well, what's the worst case scenario, Johnson? Great, let's go with that. We'll be fine, right? Like it's. But that, I tell you, recession is like 80% fear, right?
It is. It's consumer sentiment. That's what we're dealing with right now.
So
It,
so as much as I loved the idea of the tariffs, they scared the crap out of me because yeah, you had to do them perfectly. We had so many wins, but all it took were a few big losses to make this a big deal. And one of the big things now is that with our debt and the tariffs question mark, let's call it, um, other countries are starting to sell our bonds, which would cripple our dollar. It would
yeah,
also put them in a bad position. But if China wanted to and they were going to go out anyways, they could go out swinging, sell our bonds, and crash our dollar easily. Um, I- Anyways, so who knows?
I think yeah, and confidence is major. Consumer confidence. So anyway, back to my point, or back to my question. You effectively evaded it. What do you see for our housing?
What do you see for inflation? You think it's going to go up or go down?
Um, I think I'm going to take the easy way out. I think we're going to see a lot more of what we've had. I just think it's going to be accurate numbers.
I think
So
that
I
if we
think
don't get this tariff situation under control, you could see double house prices or more.
really,
Uh, well, what happens when the dollar loses half its value?
well, yeah, prices go up. I
Okay,
mean,
now it lost the next half value tomorrow.
yeah,
Okay, it lost the next half value again tomorrow, and then the next day. Pretty soon, the prices inflate out of control. Hyperinflation. Have you seen what's happening to gold? Have you seen any of these charts on the
yeah.
price of gold?
What's the gold at 20? Is it 3,900 today?
Yeah, have
Or
you ever compared what the price of gold did in Weimar Germany compared to their currency?
mm-mm.
Looks kind of like a skateboard ramp, um,
Interesting.
just like our gold does right now. And if we don't get this under control, it's going to be ugly. Let's put it that way. I don't
Interesting.
think prices will double in a year,
Mm.
but if we don't get this under control, they could double in a day. Um, you know, uh, the question is what's going to replace the dollar? That's always been the question, right? If it crashes, what would replace it? And if you look at the last 10, 15 years, the dollar's been crashing. It's not doing well. There's other
Yeah,
currencies taking
no,
its place. No one had the idea what it was going to be, but it kind of looks like it's probably going to be cryptocurrency.
it's looking more and more. It really is looking more and more like that. But man, I don't know. Like I realistically, I don't see that happening.
No,
Um,
it
I,
shouldn't. I think it should get worked out because both countries would cripple themselves at the end of the day. It's not
yeah,
profitable for either
and
one.
I still think China needs the U.S. a hell of a lot more than the U.S. needs China in a trade
Well,
scenario.
you think about what happens in this scenario. You're a business shop owner in, say, China. Let's just say I don't. We could do it on either side of the seas, right? But in
Yeah,
in China, they aren't getting any more orders. You get an email from one of your suppliers that says, due to the tariff situation, we can't afford to buy from you anymore. We're very sorry. We're gonna move away. And that's your biggest supplier. And then you get another few of those emails, and you lose 80%, 90% of your business overnight because the tariffs went up to 100 and something percent. We're not going to do this anymore. All right. Well, then the first thing you do is pull your money out of the stock market to survive this thing. Right? Okay. Well, everyone else did that same thing. So now the stock market has crashed. So those of you that are late to this game have a crapped tanked stock market.
yeah. I hadn't even seen what has the stock market done this week.
I think in China it's tanked 10, 15% yesterday, I think it was.
Well, and I mean that goes back to what I was saying about them needing us a lot more. Um, so it's up. The Dow is up 1,000 points today, which I guess is good. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I just what I go back to is again China needs us.
Oh
If
yeah.
they if they dump if they dump all of our bonds, they absolutely kill themselves.
Yeah, but they kill us too.
Well, yeah, and so at that point, are you committing Harry Carey just for shits and giggles?
Well, here's part of the problem is it's not just them we have to worry about. One of our allies, Japan, was selling our bonds, and they had to be called and be like, "You guys can't do this. You guys stop." And it's been like the fourth time in the last few years that they've done this. Where we've had to call them and be like, "Yo, you're gonna crash things. Stop it." But they're having serious financial problems over in
Well, and that's the
Japan.
thing, right? Japan is the one that you've got to. Well, I don't say that you got to nurse them along, but they don't have a choice. And we're not tariffing Japan anywhere near as much as we're dealing with China, obviously. So I see Japan as a separate issue than China. Um, if China's the like, I feel like all of this has been to go after China. Trump has said as much, right? I
Sure.
think if everybody else does what they've been doing and trying to negotiate through things, I don't think we lose a whole lot to
Well,
China.
look, I've told you this could be one of the greatest things we ever do,
Yeah,
but it's going to be ugly.
it's going to be scary. Oh yeah, it's going to be scary shit. Um,
You think things are bad right now?
yeah,
What happens when the buyer pool cuts in half again?
I don't know if it can cut it in half again. Well, I guess it can always cut in half.
Can always cut in half again.
Um, I have seen a little bit of a bump in activity in Dripping Springs and other parts of Austin, so that's something. Uh, it's been
Well, I
interesting.
just got my news from the last week and saw that applications are down like 10% across the board. Um, yeah, after the Trump
They were
tariff
high, so
thing.
ten
Yeah.
percent is not terrible.
What now?
They applications were high, so 10% down is not terrible.
We'll see, man. I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but I am pretty worried about what we're looking at.
Yeah, could be interesting. All right, man. Well, next week we'll do it on Monday. Sound fair? Sound fun?
Sounds good.
Guys, as always, if y'all look, and thank you for participating today. All you
Yeah.
other ones that are watching and you're not
Nice
even
seeing your
giving us
face pop up.
like, come on, guys, help us out here. Um, more questions, please. But all right, man. We'll see you next Monday.
Yes, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers, sir.